Today we are going to be talking about the top 10 films of 2019. That coming up next on MBE.
And yes, Stephen, you are absolutely correct. It will be a discussion of our top 10 favourite movies, best movies of 2019. This is a partnering video to our top 10 worst movies of 2019, which featured some interesting choices. I'm sure we'll have equally interesting choices coming up in this one, but what have we got coming in at number 10, Stephen? In no particular order until we get to about 4 or 5 incidentally.
Coming in, John, it's Knives Out. This film is directed by Rian Johnson, as we know, and stars the likes of Daniel Craig, Chris Evans, Ana de Armas, and got a high score of 8.1 out of 10 on IMDb.
Yeah, Stephen, and incidentally I think it's still sitting in the mid to high 90s on Rotten Tomatoes as well, so it thoroughly deserves it. I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a return to form for Rian Johnson. Some people would say he never lost his form. Obviously The Last Jedi being a very divisive film like it is, but he's back to his independent roots here. He's doing a whodunit. I actually rate it higher than the Kenneth Branagh Murder on the Orient Express movie from I think 2 years back now, and that's because it's not trying to live up to the hype of a movie from 30-40 years ago. It's not an Agatha Christie retelling adaptation. It's all from Ryan's little round-headed noggin, and it's got some cast like whodunits seem to have. He seems to be a necessity for these movies that you have like 4, 5, 6, 7 Lord knows how many actors. This has actually got more. It's just insane. Christopher Plummer, Lakeith Stanfield, Toni Collette, Don Johnson, Michael Shannon, Jamie Lee Curtis, Ana de Armas, Chris Evans, Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig is wonderful as Benoit Blanc, the southern drawl producing I was about to say director, detective. He's just wonderful, Stephen. It's got everything. It's got great twists, little bits of humour, black humour, and just wonderful suspense and drama.
Yeah, that's certainly something different from obviously the Orient Express film, John, from 2 years ago, as you said. This has obviously got that black humour in there. It's something that Rian Johnson seems to find, naturally in his films prior to The Last Jedi. The humour in that, as we know, was obviously a bit debatable, maybe misplaced, probably more suited to Marvel films, maybe not. But certainly in this film I thought it worked well, certainly with Chris Evans' character, John. He was an absolute wind-up merchant throughout. And, the cast as well, John, I just rhymed off a couple of them there, but I didn't think there was anybody that sort of outshone anyone else in the film. I thought you need a director like Rian Johnson that can handle a big cast like this. Certainly did in The Last Jedi, but in this film, and keeping that going as well and getting that little twist in at the end. It is a whodunit, as we know, so you're going to get that twist at the end. I thought it was an enjoyable film, John. I'm not going to say it surprised me, because when I did see the trailer for it, I was on board. I thought, this is a good trailer. This looks a really good film as well, and I can't wait to see it. And I did get that enjoyment out of it as well.
Stephen, final thing I would add, he's got a reputation for being a really good independent filmmaker. He seems to craft intelligent movies. The dialogue pops, and it was just wonderful in this movie, the way these characters all interacted. This Fromby family, I want to say they were called. Fromby, yes. It was just a highly dysfunctional family. Christopher Plummer plays the guy that dies incidentally, and he throws a little bomb in there, a grenade, and all hell breaks loose, and it's just wonderful seeing it all all over the place and completely imploding. And you're right, if I was to pick out 3 primary great performances, I'd probably go Chris Evans, Daniel Craig, and Ana de Armas. I just thought those 3 were wonderful. Probably Craig, though, primarily, because he was just wonderful as a detective. But look, I thoroughly enjoyed it, but not much more to add to it.
We'll move on, John, to our next film. It's John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. This came out earlier on in the year, as you know.
Yes.
And it was directed by Chad Stahelski and stars, of course, Keanu Reeves. He's a very busy boy these days with 3 franchises on the go. Halle Berry and Ian McShane.
Yes, Stephen, I think this movie was wonderful. We've spoke about it many, many times. First one was incredible. Second one, a little bit different. It expanded out the mythology and what was going on in this criminal underground setting. This one felt like a combination of the two. It was great action, as you'd expect. Keanu just upped the game again, just his ability to handle weapons, slickness in the way he moved, taking down multiple figures. It also takes place right after that. I can't recall what the actual hit was called. It doesn't even matter. But he's obviously got thousands of hitmen after him, and it was wonderful. It starts with a great sequence. Killing a big 7-foot NBA player with a book. So that starts off with a bang.
He returned the book as well, didn't he?
He returned the book, yes. That was obviously enabled him to leave New York. And it went everywhere. It went to, I think, Madagascar or something. The dog sequence was incredible. Halle Berry's scenes were wonderful. Ian McShane was amazing at the end as well, just sitting back with the wine with the dog. It was beautiful. It just combined the two things, and it expanded the mythology out ever more. And Keanu's there.
We knew it was going to do that, John. Obviously, with the upcoming television series as well, there was going to be some expansion there. For me, this is only a personal point of view. I felt this film was better than the second one. I always felt the second one was a sort of a diet version of the original film, John. This one took it in a new direction, new cast members as well. And that you're right, that opening
it's
15... That's it. 15 to 20 minutes, that opening 15-20 minutes, John, was so frantic, and it got right into the action right away, and that's what we want from a John Wick film. It's going to be very interesting to see where they take it next, out with obviously the television series, John, which I know is not going to obviously have John Wick heavy or anything like that, but it's going to be based in that world. Obviously Ian McShane will probably play a big part in that television series as well, so I'm looking forward to that. 7.5 out of 10 on IMDb as well.
And we got the Bronn guy, the guy that plays Bronn in Game of Thrones. I think he was the head of Continental in Casablanca, so I presume he'll be back as well. So they're just expanding out the mythology, this criminal underworld, the high table, different things going on. And look, I cannot wait to see where they take it. Apparently they had ideas for further stories. Keanu, is it Chad Stahelski, I think he says, directed it. So I'm excited for that. I love this budding franchise. It's a fully formed franchise now. It's just wonderful. My favourite action movie of the year.
Yeah, I think so, John.
Out and out action. Anyway.
Yeah, what you expect from an action film. Yeah, but we'll move on, John, to our next film. It is Spider-Man: Far From Home, getting 7.6 out of 10 on IMDb, and this was directed by John Watson, stars Tom Holland, Samuel Jackson, and Jake Gyllenhaal.
Stephen, fantastic movie. The perfect tonic to give the fans after the massive scale of Endgame. More street level, but then had such an interesting villain, and obviously Mysterio and what they were doing with different universes. Obviously we find out that's not actually the case, but when you're actually watching the movie you don't realise that. Just incredible, that sequence as well, just diving into the heartbreak and just Peter Parker still grieving for Tony Stark. I thought it was wonderful. It was colourful, amazingly shot, brings back all the young guys with, obviously I can't recall their name, I always forget that little guy's name, he's quite funny. Little fat friend, doesn't matter, I screwed his name up before, but
Ned,
Ned, you've got that great chemistry between all of those characters, and then you've got Samuel Jackson's Nick Fury coming in. Jake Gyllenhaal's the perfect villain. Just wish the guy had survived on to numerous other movies.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. If you've not seen it by now, then you really do deserve to crawl back under the rock, because look, it's been out for months now. But wonderful. I really enjoyed it. A worthy addition to the MCU, and one of the best Spider-Man movies for me that's been made, better than Homecoming.
Yeah, it's funny, John, because obviously after the big bombastic Infinity War, we got Ant-Man and the Wasp. That suffered over here because of the Football World Cup, the Soccer World Cup, on its delay in its release over here. This certainly did not suffer from that. This was, a lot of people think this film's actually better than Homecoming. I would have to agree with that. I think a Spider-Man film, because of the way the franchise has been handled over the last 15 to 20 years, we don't really need to know the ins and outs of how Peter Parker became Spider-Man. They didn't really touch on that on Homecoming anyway. It was kind of thrown into the mix, but even more so in this one. He's away from his home comforts, pardon the pun, obviously travelling in Europe. And Jake Gyllenhaal as well. I thought he was the star of the film.
Yeah.
We get Samuel Jackson there for surprisingly some comic relief, from that character. But
in the space.
Yeah, exactly. But just following on from Endgame, it was always going to be a hard act to follow. But Marvel seemed to have that, that recipe, and that formula. It seems to work for them. When they go from that, they can bring it back down to street level, like you said, John, and it still works, and it still fits to the narrative as well.
It does, and Stevens, because we did have such an interesting, colourful villain in Mysterio, it just made it pop all the more, because it was like an in-between. It wasn't quite as street level as Ant-Man and the Wasp, but nowhere near the size and scale of Endgame. Can't speak about it without just heaping praise on Tom Holland once again. He's just a great Peter Parker. He's still second to no, I'll take that back. I think he's better than Tobey Maguire now, but the actual movies are not better than the original Spider-Man movies from the well, not the original, you went to see the original, but the early 2000s ones. But I loved it. It's a worthy addition, as I did say, and it fully deserves for me to be in the top 10 for us. Anyway,
another film in top 10, John, is Doctor Sleep.
Yes.
It got 7.5 out of 10 on IMDb. This was directed, of course, by Mike Flanagan.
Yep.
And stars Ewan McGregor, Rebecca Ferguson, that's the name you struggle with, John, and Kaylee Curran as well in there. This is obviously the follow-up to the Shining from 40 odd years ago. It was always going to be a tough act to follow, but to get that kind of rating as well, John, or a high rating on IMDb, 7.5 out of 10. We've got it in our top 10 for a very good reason, because it's a very good film.
Yeah.
Not the biggest horror fan out there, but this certainly is. It's more psychological. You're interested to see where this character has been for the last 40 years as well, how the events of The Shining have affected this character as well, and obviously there's a new spin on it as well with the other children as well, and it seems to go more into the sort of supernatural cause of The Shining as well, which I'm not saying it was missed in the original film, but I think when you've got someone like Jack Nicholson on screen, his sheer presence it dominates and takes you away from the actual meaning of the storyline as well. Perhaps that's why maybe Stephen King took exception to that film. He certainly loved this one. I think he does appreciate The Shining a lot more. The film, that is, since this release as well. So that speaks volumes.
Speaks volumes for what Mike Flanagan managed to accomplish, Stephen. Obviously keeping both sides happy, both estates, Stephen King and Stanley Kubrick. I really enjoyed this movie. You're absolutely right. I thought Rebecca Ferguson was a fantastic antagonist. Not black and white. You could understand her and her group's reasoning behind why they were going after the Shining, or the steam, I think they called it. Can't recall the exact word. I'm sure it was steam.
Remember.
But it was just a really interesting movie. Really enjoyed Ewan McGregor as Dan Torrance. I thought he was a really nuanced guy. It was a nuanced performance in this deeply complicated guy. He was hitting the bottle to try and connect with his father, see what pushed him to the extremes that he obviously faced in the original Shining movie. And then to see him come to terms with his life and his past, and then help this young girl, obviously Abra Stone, played by Kaylee Curran. Wonderful. It had the right balance of fan service. It was really slow at the start, but I enjoy those movies. We've also seen that from Ari Aster and whatnot. Then it exploded in the last 25-30 minutes. We went back to the Overlook Hotel. As a big fan of The Shining, I thought he'd really nailed it. Didn't mimic the movie, but he'd done his own thing, but just handled the connection really well. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The guy knows how to make horror movies. He's done it time and again. He's worked on a Stephen King, I think it was Gerald's Game or something before.
Yeah,
is that right?
Film,
yeah. So he knows how to do them. He knows how to handle that guy's stories, and he knows how to handle the genre as well. I loved it.
Well, so much so, John, he's trying to push Stephen King into doing another short story on, obviously, this world. So
I hope he does, yeah.
I hope he does as well, John, because I think you've got all the right ingredients there. So we'll move on anyway to our next film. It's Rocket Man. This seems like a lifetime ago. This was out. It was back in late May, and this film was directed by Dexter Fletcher, starring Taron Egerton, Jamie Bell and Richard Madden. It gets 7.4 out of 10 on IMDb.
Fully deserved, Stephen. I thought Taron Egerton was wonderful. I had doubts over the guy, whether he could portray Elton John. He doesn't look hugely like him, but actually when you see him in this movie, he actually starts to blend into him a little bit. He's apparently bonded very well with the real Elton John. He's worked with him. He's not worked with him, he's sung with him on stage, And I really enjoyed the blending of obviously biopic and musical elements in this movie. The way they utilised the musical numbers into full-blown song and dance acts, incredible. Just looking into this guy's very turbulent life. He had a life of debauchery, if you like, hitting the bottle, drink, everything, the bottle and drugs and whatnot, everything in between. Really great movie. I thought Dexter Fletcher proved that he can do a great musical. He also didn't get credit for Bohemian Rhapsody. It was Brian Springer, I think it was. Brian Singer, I'll screw that name up. I don't know why, I had a hard time with it. Jerry Springer, if you'd have been better with Jerry Springer, then you wouldn't have had the controversy getting into the Oscars and whatnot. Didn't hamper it though.
John, it's funny you should mention that. I think that was obviously subconsciously in Dexter Fletcher's mind that he wanted to make sure that the audience could tell that there was a different style and tone to this film. Certainly you get that in the first couple of minutes. That cul-de-sac. This is an out-and-out fantasy musical. It's not biopic. It's not going to charter from the day Elton John or Reginald Dwight, I think his name was born, right to up to a period in the 70s. It was going back and forth, and that's what I liked about it. And visually as well, I think they nailed it with those sequences as well. The one where he's under the water drowning, and then 2 minutes later
he gets stabbed in the
neck. It's all one sequence where he gets stabbed
with the needle.
The adrenaline, to go on stage, and he just switches on and performs. I thought that was magical. It was one of the standout sort of sequences, in one of the films from this year. It kind of sticks in my head, and I can see it playing out very clearly because
it was Tiny Dancer, wasn't it? No, it was Rocket Man, and then he went on. No, yeah, it was definitely Rocket Man. Yeah, but Stephen, you're right. Just the way he handled the musical elements, as I did say, the biopic nature of the movie, it was skewed through this Alcoholic Anonymous group, him looking back, and then just the way that he handled the themes as well, him getting forced into doing things he didn't want to do because of the fame, the pressure. Just wonderful. Really good performance from Taron Egerton as well. He's like a mini pint-sized Hugh Jackman, if you'd like. So yeah, hats off to them, man.
We'll move on, John. I was just thinking of that. Both of them actually appeared in Eddie the Eagle, so I was kind of trying to.
And they appeared on Graham Norton as well. I think they sang together with someone else. Maybe.
He's a good guy, Taron Egerton. He's a very talented young lad. And I think he's got a great singing voice as well. I think as well as obviously his acting, credentials, he certainly could have a career in singing as well. But we'll move on, John, to the next movie. It's Ford v Ferrari, or Le Mans 66 if you're from the UK.
I still call it Ford v Ferrari.
Such a naff title. I prefer Ford versus Ferrari as well. But yes, this came out just the mid-November this year, John, so it's only been out here for about 6 or 7 weeks. 8.3 out of 10 on IMDb. This was of course directed by James Mangold, stars Matt Damon, Christian Bale, John Bertnell as well. This film, John, I have to put my hand up, I've not seen the film yet. I know you have. You thoroughly enjoyed it. We did have a good talk about why it's in the top 5. I know you weren't sure you wanted to put it that far up because I haven't seen it, but I did compare it to the other films and you said this is right up there, so I'll take your word for it. I'm going to go and see it, John. I'm looking forward to seeing it as well because I'm a big fan obviously of James Mangold films first and foremost, but obviously the cast as well. Yes,
Steve, look, you're right, Mangold, Logan and so on, he's just an incredible director, and he's done it again here. He's handled these two multiple big names, but primarily Matt Damon and Christian Bale. Brought them together. He's got two wonderful performances out of them. It's primarily focused on these two guys. When you think of this movie, you'd probably think it's a big bombastic racing movie, but it's not. It's primarily focused on these two guys, their friendship, them coming back together. Matt Damon plays this really post-traumatic stress ridden guy. He can't drive anymore because of things that have happened for health conditions. And then he goes to Ken Miles, Christian Bale's character, and tries to get him on board to test drive Ford's new cars and try and catapult them over Ferrari in the Le Mans race, become the primary racing company, if you like, a car company.
Propel, John.
Yeah, Propel, that's the word. I'd like to amalgamate 50 different words. I'm like the Ringo of MBE, if you'd like, 8 days a week, a hard day's night. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I thought John Bernthal was really good as well, and pops up in a whole host of movies. It's like how shall I put it? A more serious. No, that's wrong because Jesse Plemons is great as well, but he's like a different version of Jesse Plemons. He just appears in all of these movies. Really, really enjoyed it, Stephen. Fantastically acted. There's some real introspective moments in there, and just the way they handled the sense of speed and just the racing sequences as well. He paid respect to that, and he really managed to capture the period. Everything. It was just wonderful. I expect Christian Bale to get an Oscar nomination for this. I don't think he'll win, but I certainly wouldn't cry if he did win because I think it was a fitting performance. Just absolutely sublime from Mangold again.
I can't wait to see it, John, after what you just said there. So we'll move on to our next film. It's Avengers Endgame, and this got 8.5 out of 10. This is obviously a very successful film, to say is an understatement, but this was obviously from the Russo brothers, Anthony and Joe, and stars the likes of, I don't really want to go through the cast, it's massive, but Robert Downey Jr.'s in it, Chris Evans and Mark Ruffalo, etc, etc.
Don Cheadle, yes. And let's not forget Brie Larson as well, just to wind up all those people out there who hate Brie. Stephen, what can you say about this movie? We spoke the hind legs off this movie a good few months back. It's just incredible. Culmination of 11 years of hard work, 21 movies, 22 movies. Just
Can't remember.
Remarkable what the Russos have managed, what everyone managed in this. Robert Downey Jr. was sublime as Tony Stark. It just is an overarching story over that whole Infinity Saga, and what he does at the end, it really just typifies his growth as a character. Obviously the ultimate sacrifice as an action spectacle. Those last half an hour, or that last half an hour, the last 30 minutes or so, just up there with some of the best action sequences, or overarching action sequence. It's just incredible what you got from really just the confrontation of obviously Thor, Iron Man and Captain America with Thanos onwards. Obviously have all the portals opening up. It was just incredible, man. And then the time, getting back in time and whatnot, just
handling
movie.
of the characters
There was a few
as
inconsistencies,
well, John. You know, we know the film obviously went just over 3 hours, I think.
Just over, I'd have to check that exactly.
It was 3 hours.
3 hours and 1 minute.
1 minute or something like that. It was just over it. To cram all those characters into this film, you know, without it sort of, you know, losing its pacing or anything like that. And give them all, you know, good airtime as well was something I don't think the Russos get enough credit for. You know, this film could have, you say 11 years, John, you know, in the making. If this film didn't work, it was going to, you know, it would have a serious, obviously, impact on the previous films. Certainly for Infinity War
totally
as well.
Raped our legacy, really.
You know, and we've seen it before, John, when, you know, a film continues on, you know, from, you know, a previous episode, I want to say. Sometimes it might obviously rain on its parade. Certainly in this case it didn't. You know, they had this plan from the very beginning, or very, you know, I think they were planning it out year by year, you know, and building it up. They certainly did have a plan, that's my point. And this film as well, I went to see this 3 times in the cinema, I'm pretty sure. And every time I got some kind of level of enjoyment out of it from a different point of view. Certainly things I didn't pick up the first time, I got it the second time, and the third time by that point I think I just about got it, you know. And you're right, I think probably the last 45 minutes of the film is just absolutely epic. The score from Alan Silvestri as well, epic. You know, and I think as the film's running itself down with all those little endings as well, you know, with the funeral scene for Tony Stark, Love You 3000 was in there as well. Chris Evans' character as well, Steve Rogers, got closure, a happy ending as well for him. So there was a lot of things that we took out of the film.
Passed the baton over to Falcon as well.
Well, this is the thing, I was just going to touch on that, John. Although there was, you know, some closure for some of the characters, there was some openings as well, you know, taking us into the next phase, and obviously Disney Plus television series. So I think it just seemed to balance all that correctly, you know, and I think a lot of filmmakers and other franchises could take, you know, a lot of notes from the way the Russos and all the other directors, let's not forget them, you know, the Joe Johnsons, etc., you know, who were in you know, the Infinity Saga. I think they've got a lot, you've got to give them a lot of credit as well for the handling of it. There was a few films in there like The Dark World, and obviously the other Avengers film, the one that was
Age of Ultron.
Age of Ultron, I can't remember.
Was that Joss Whedon? That was that, the Russos?
Couldn't remember, John, I can't remember who that was, but even the bad ones aren't that bad.
No. Stephen, look, the thing that blew me away most about this movie though was the different themes and just the tone shifting in this movie. The first hour, which is so slow and quiet, focusing on the effects of the finger snap, focusing on Tony Stark living this new life. If he obviously, oh God, what's she called again? I've totally forgotten the name. God damn it, doesn't matter. With the daughter and whatnot, anyway. And just then getting off in the time travel, we've got the comedy moments from Scott Lang in there, and then that big bombastic ending. It was just wonderful the way that he handled everything. And you're right, it completely it made the legacy all the more special of
Pepper
that entire
Potts, John.
Pepper Potts, yeah, I wanted to say Pepper Pig. I stopped myself. That would have been a disaster. But yeah, Steve, it was just it cemented the legacy of this Infinity Saga, and it was just a wonderful movie as an experience, a zeitgeist movie of 2019.
Certainly was, John. Here's another film that came out in the summer. It's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This came out just mid-August here. Got 7.8 out of 10. We talked about this film briefly in our previous video, obviously The Killing of Sharon Tate. This was what we were fearing for this film. Certainly wasn't anything we had to fear by the end of it, John. I thought the ending was fantastic, this film. You know, it was absolutely bonkers, but it was touching as well in certain moments, you know, and it was one of those what ifs, you know, which Tarantino's been dabbling in over the last maybe few films, that he's, you know, changing events in time and stuff like that. It makes you wonder, you know, if it played out this way, you know, certain things would have obviously been different. But like I said, it's directed by Quentin Tarantino and stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie.
Stephen, thoroughly enjoyed this movie, absolutely loved it. I've seen it twice in the cinema. I think that was pushing it with the length, but it was just wonderful. What can you say about Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth? That bromance, just incredible. Movie primarily focused on those two guys, but again, it's just typifies and highlights Quentin Tarantino's ability to go back and do period pieces with such authenticity. He just knows how to handle these different time settings. Also, being a man from LA, he knew what it was like growing up on Los Angeles, what the hell, Hollywood Boulevard, and just in Los Angeles in general. But yeah, it was just wonderful, this movie. I loved everything about it, just the little radio segments and whatnot, the music, everything about it. And then the alternate reality at the end. I spoke about obviously Endgame, the last 30 minutes of that, the last 35 minutes of this movie, in the Hollywood Hills, with Rick Dalton clutching a nice margarita and just absolutely destroying these goddamn effing hippies on the street. Get that mechanical arsehole off of my street, things like that. Just the flamethrower, everything, the breakdown of Rick Dalton on the set, just everything, man. The dog food sequence, everything was just absolutely superb. Love it.
Some people hate it as well.
Yeah. The acid cigarette. I can really.
Bagels. That was the last thing he said as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I can connect with that, Stephen. I've been out on vodka walking my dog before, so that was another moment I really connected with this movie. Some people seem to hate it. They think it's boring. They don't like the extended driving sequences. I absolutely loved it. I just seeped myself in the goodness of this.
If you're not from, obviously that neck of the woods, it certainly does give you a feeling for the place as well. I've never been to LA, so I don't really know what it's like. I only can pick up from what I see in obviously film or television.
I wish I was Rick Dalton.
But I think Quentin Tarantino. I think there was a lot of people out there that did, obviously were very critical of the overextended driving scenes, highlighting and emphasising or over-emphasising the fact that this was all in Hollywood. I don't mind that at all. It gave me a feel for what I've never experienced. So hats off to them. I think they had to close the strip, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
Recreate that period.
7 days and 8 nights, I think it was.
Fantastic.
And it really did show with the authenticity that you managed to create. And then just the interactions of Cliff Booth with also the Manson family and whatnot. There's so many memorable moments. Just him getting on a roof and fixing an antenna and then getting back and having a reminiscent moment, if you like. I don't even know if that's a word, incidentally, with Bruce Lee. There's so many epic moments in there, and as I did say, it's just classic Tarantino, dialogue heavy, and just even when you've got someone like Margot Robbie coming in and playing Sharon Tate, doesn't have a lot of dialogue, it still gets a performance out of her, and you feel like she was a sizeable role. People were criticising that. She was a side character essentially. It was all about Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth and just the changing tides of Hollywood and whatnot. I really, really enjoyed it.
She was certainly the beacon, John, for the that moment in time. That's what her purpose was. I thought Margot Robbie stamped her authority on the role as well, and there was enough presence in there. People say screen time, but sometimes presence is very more important than obviously that. And if you can stamp your authority on the film, which I felt she did, she didn't have any. I don't think she had any scenes with the other two actors, did she? I can't remember.
At the end, very briefly, with Rick Dalton.
With Rick Dalton, that was it. So I thought the three of them performed well. I thought it was a great film from Tarantino as well. It was long awaited. The minute this was announced, John, we couldn't wait for it. And then we got the trailer earlier this year as well. I think it was just the turn of the year. It may have been the end of last year. I can't remember, but I was in.
Give a little loving trailer.
Yeah, I mean the soundtrack, and that's something we didn't talk about. The soundtrack once again from Tarantino.
He just knows how to do it.
He's got such a musical ear for rarities that are out there, and obscure sounds as well. And I don't think he gets enough credit for that. Because certainly he captures the age, he captures the moment with his sounds as well. I love the film. It's certainly one that I have not got in digital download yet, but I certainly am going to do it.
Stephen, I'm going to get the poster as well, because it has to be gracing the walls in here. A wonderful poster. And then that's another thing, just the little movies within movies and the different posters. I could speak about this movie forever, but I don't want to get into Hollywood Boulevard and Los Angeles Boulevard because I trip over myself. But look, guys, we'll move on to the next movie on that note. What have we got coming in at number 2,
John,
Stephen?
Number 2, we have got The Irishman. This obviously came out at the end of November here on Netflix. Had obviously a cinematic run prior to that, I think maybe a few weeks before. This film is obviously Martin Scorsese's film. It's Robert De Niro, Al Pacino and Joe Pesci. Do I have to say more? It's obviously based on the
Jimmy Hoffa.
Yeah, Jimmy Hoffa, the mobs.
Possible slaying.
Yeah, possible. Yeah, that's obviously something. And it's seen through the eyes of Frank Sheeran. I think that's what the character's name was, wasn't it?
Yes.
Robert De Niro one. I think I talked about this when we talked about it when we came back, or I came back, sorry, John, I came back from a holiday. I watched it on a flight. It was 4.5 hours, so it was ideal time for me to obviously digest this film in peace and quiet of, obviously.
Hopefully on an iPad.
Yeah, it was
Because
on
Martin
an
would
iPad.
have a word with you, Stephen, if it was on a phone.
Yeah, no, it was definitely on an iPad, John. And in fact, the guy that was sitting in front of me, or just opposite me, you know, on the other side of the aisle, he was watching it simultaneously. He was 10 seconds ahead of me, and I was trying, but he was watching it on a phone, you know, so I was trying my best not to look at what he was watching, but I thoroughly enjoyed the film, John. I thought all the performances were excellent. You know, a lot of people say Al Pacino was a standout. He was excellent, you know, I'm not going to say he wasn't, but I didn't think that the likes of Joe Pesci or Robert De Niro's performances were undervalued in any way. I thought they were all on even keel.
Stephen, I think you could make a case for each and every one of that trio being the standout performer in their own different ways, and they're all very different. Obviously, Frank Sheeran, Robert De Niro's character, was the main linchpin of the story. Essentially, it followed him primarily. But then you had Jimmy Hoffa, Al Pacino, coming in and out with his really physical acting style. He just
very
loves,
flamboyant.
Yeah, very flamboyant. Yeah. He loves to get in and about these sort of roles. Anything where he is front and centre, in front of a crowd, seen in centre of a woman with the hoo-ha and things like that. And but not a snitch. Well, he does it here. You run from a gun. You run from a gun. You charge a knife. I can't recall the exact word, line, but he just excels in that. And then you have Joe Pesci, much quieter in this. And we've seen in the likes of Goodfellas and whatnot, or even Home Alone, and what was the other one, My Cousin Vinny, where he's really out there, different roles. This guy knows how to do everything. He was really quiet in that. I really loved him as Russell Buffalino. In actual fact, Steve, I think you probably share my favourite line from this movie, and it comes from Buffalino, obviously Pesci, when he says it is what it is. That sequence, that whole moment where I think he's being celebrated, it's a tribute night to Frank Sheeran, and they're trying to knock some sense into Jimmy Hoffa. He's just not having it, and he tells him, look, if they can kill a president, a union president's nothing. Tell him it is what it is. It was just a wonderful sequence. I think that just typifies the whole movie for me.
Stephen Graham as well, John.
Stephen Graham, what can you say? The guy's from Liverpool. Yeah. And he plays a Sicilian New York mafia mobster just perfectly. He has not a huge amount of scenes in this movie, but
Tony
the ones
Pro,
Tony Pro, the movie, the scenes he is in this movie certainly has a presence, and that's some doing when you have the likes of Pesci and De Niro and Pacino beside you. He really does command a presence. Ray Romano's in there as well. I actually forgot he was in it. Yeah. You told me he was a lawyer, so there you go.
Keitel with a very small role, John, but effective.
Yeah, Frank Sheeran pissed him off because I think he shut down one of his laundrettes, something like that. But yeah, it's just a wonderful movie, Stephen. Jesse Plemons is in there as well. I spoke about Jesse. I don't know if it was in this show or the last one. They're being filmed concurrently, so it's all blending into one homogenous mess. But look, he's a wonderful actor as well. Side role though, but he just tends to blend into the side anyway. Even when he's wonderful, he doesn't seem to get credit. But there's just so much going on here. It's 3.5 hours long, and I felt like it was a 2 or 15-minute long movie. It was just incredible. Yeah. Such an ambitious project from Scorsese to tackle 80 years of storytelling, really, and to try and do all these different things at different time periods with the same actors. If I had to have one criticism, I'd say perhaps the de-aging is a little jarring at times. I mean, I think Frank Sheeran's supposed to be 30. He's supposed to be 30. But Stephen, I don't know if you've seen the deep fake version. Someone's went in and changed some things, and what a difference it makes when Frank Sheeran, De Niro has his right eye colour, his brown eye colour instead of blue. Completely transforms it.
That's amazing, John. Just those little details, can transform the whole scene. But you're right. But I think if you watch it's a kind of a round table with the 3 actors and the director, which is on Netflix as well. I think it's maybe on for about 15-20 minutes. It's not too long, but it does explain the physicalities of the characters as well. You know, Al Pacino, in his 70s now, I think. There was a scene where he had to get out of his chair very quickly in his living room, sitting around with the family. I think it was JFK or something. The Kennedys were on, and he was appalled at them being on the television.
But it may have been,
he was supposed to be getting up in a rage, but he was getting up. He was supposed to be a man who was 40, but he was getting up out his chair like a man in his 70s, and he had to obviously, thrust himself out of the chair, as if he was a bit more livelier. And it's little things like that you forget, John, because when you see Al Pacino on film, I'm going to use him as an example because I felt the CG with him was probably at the best. Yeah. And you do forget that he is an elderly man now. I didn't think that when I was watching this film, and it took me away from the fact he is in his 70s now. Yeah. Just with some of the effects that were on his obviously his face and his movements as well. Obviously having to stand up a lot straighter than he used to and things like that. And obviously the energy in his voice. As you get older, your voice is a little bit deeper. It's a little bit slower and slurred. didn't detect that from Al Pacino at all.
Not at all, Stephen. Look, I just think it was a wonderful movie in general. It's at the end of an era, really. We're never going to get to see Pesci, Pacino, De Niro and Marty Scorsese working together again. He's went back to the mobster genre once again. He's one of the all-time great directors. It was a passion project, over 10 years, and it really does. It's palpable, because it's just an incredible movie. Everything about it, just hats off to Netflix, taking this off of Columbia, I think it was, and making it happen. Because it would have been a travesty if it was never made. And there's so many moving components and mechanical parts going on. It's not really mechanical, just, you know what I mean? Suspension of metaphorical mechanical parts going on in there. And the way he brings it all together, I don't think any other director other than Scorsese could have made it happen. And yet I hope it gets some recognition at the Oscars. I'm sure it will. Because the Academy love Marty. And I'm sure they love De Niro and everyone else involved. But look, I ain't got much more to add to it, Stephen, so I think that will bring us on to our number one movie of 2019. I don't know whether to add in the caveat, Stephen, of perhaps some of the movies which we can't speak about just now.
I think we should before we do.
Obviously there will be other movies which will be appearing in other people's top 10s of 2019, which we can't speak about. Yeah, because they've not come out here yet. The likes of 1917, Jojo Rabbit, Parasite, The Lighthouse, Uncut Gems, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, A Hidden Life. All wonderful movies which I'm sure would have popped up in their top 10, but they're not out because we don't get these movies until January 2020. Or Scrubs here in the United Kingdom. So look, with that out the way, Stephen, number one is
Joker, John.
Yes.
And this film was obviously from Todd Phillips, who directed and wrote this film along with Scott Silver, and stars Joaquin Phoenix, Robert De Niro in there as well, and Zazie Beetz as well. There's a whole host of interesting actors and characters in there, John. This is obviously based in Gotham City. I think it's around the mid-80s, I want to say early 80s, I can't remember. And it's obviously based on the troubled comedian Arthur Fleck. We finally get a name for the origins of Joker, the character.
Oh, is it?
Well, this is the thing about this film, the interpretation.
Todd Phillips has come out and says it might not be.
Yeah, I mean, and even watching the film and then watching it again, you do get different interpretations of the character's mindset.
Yeah.
What he's telling us, obviously it's through him.
He's an unreliable narrator.
Yeah, it's just so unreliable, and you don't know what is real and what isn't. This is what makes this film interesting for me. It's a very layered film, and as I said, on a second viewing, I'm seeing things from a different perspective, picking up different things I didn't notice the first time round, and it's given me a different sort of perspective on sequences that are played out later on as well. It's just a very, I don't want to say complex film, John. It's I wouldn't go as far as that. It's very easy to understand, but when you've got the film sort of through the eyes of the main character, you certainly can be misguided in his narrative. So
you see that with Thomas Wayne.
Certainly, John. But what was your expectations going into this film? Because obviously, certainly we knew it was going to be a dark film from DC as well. Joaquin Phoenix, such a reliable, talented man. We knew that he was going to bring something different to the table, something different perhaps to what we've seen before in the Joker characters. Heath Ledger's obviously is very hard to obviously top, but I don't think he topped it. But this was a different take. This is one of the things. It was more psychological. I always felt Heath Ledger's was more of a sort of con man. Liked to just he was an anarchist. And this, it's more of a.
Just like to see the world burn.
Exactly, and this film, John, I felt that Joaquin Phoenix's sort of take on the character as well, and obviously the writing from Todd Phillips was more of a psychological inside the head of this character. I thought they did the right thing. We didn't want to see a regurgitation of anything we've seen before. This is certainly something we've never seen before.
No, Stephen, it was more like it was like a comic book version of the Taxi Driver. That's essentially what he was going for, Todd Phillips. A more psychological, introspective story technique or telling of this classic DC antagonist. I just thought it was incredible. My expectations going in was for a dark, uncomfortable movie about this isolated figure cut off from society and how society was going to shape and beat him into what he ultimately becomes as a Joker, and we got that from the trailer, so that was what my expectations were, and my expectations were met getting into this movie because Joaquin Phoenix, they tailor-made this movie for him Todd Phillips came out and says if he wasn't interested in the role, it wouldn't have happened. And I can understand why. We actually spoke, I can't recall the name of the movie, it was on the blog rundown. I actually went and watched it just so I could connect with the actual rundown. Can't recall the name, but he's done so many movies like it. He was this isolated figure and he was just conflicted inside. He had so much mental turmoil going on, and again we've seen it with her as well. He played a figure like that. He's just the perfect guy for this role, and he really does come in and does something. You alluded to it with obviously Heath Ledger, Jack Nicholson and whatnot. Was it George? No, that was the director, Romero or something, that done the original one in the 60s. They all have Cesar Romero. They all have distinctly different takes on the character, and he comes in. Jared Leto, I'm forgetting about him already. Completely forgettable take on the character, but he comes in and puts his own stamp on it. Does it from in fairness to him, he's got a completely different remit. He can do things that those other actors couldn't do. They were shoehorned into a specific movie about Batman primarily and whatnot, or Harley Quinn in the Suicide Squad in Jared's case. So we had a slightly more open sandbox to do his thing, and I thought he'd done a wonderful job as Arthur Fleck. It was just incredible. There was obviously comparisons to the Taxi Driver movie, and there was another one, I think, The King of Comedy, which De Niro was in. He actually played the Flick, the role reverse figure, and there is comparisons to be made, but I think, as we spoke about previously, Todd Phillips did enough for this movie to differentiate it from those, and it was just wonderful. You're right, Stephen, unreliable narrator, so many moments in this that you question afterwards, was that real, was it really happening, did they just make it up? Obviously the scene where I think he goes to her room after he kills, he does the first killing, and then you're like, does that happen? Then there's a whole host of other scenes. Also the primary ones early on in the movie where he has that moment where he's on what's De Niro's character's name called in this, Murray Franklin's show, and you're like, there's no way that's real. So that kind of sets it up that he is a fantasist.
It's a deliberate job,
and you can't really take anything that's coming out the guy's narration or his perspective serious, but even still it screws with your head. It's just wonderful looking at how society crafts and shapes different people. People aren't born inherently evil. They are shaped by society into what they ultimately become, and I think that's why it's became such a zeitgeist movie. And there's some iconic upbeat moments as well. Obviously that goddamn Gary Glitter song where he's dancing down the stairs. That's just an amazing sequence, and it's become iconic already. So I love this movie, and I'm glad to see that it slapped down all the critics and people that were trying to shit on it and say it was going to be controversial and create a wave of violence. What didn't, people have connected with it, and they're actually going together and perhaps it's a communal experience on this staircase in New York. So many great performances, but you can't really look past Joaquin Phoenix.
No.
I think he should win the Oscar. I think just now he's got it nailed down. He will be best actor.
The success of it as well, John. Obviously, there's early talks of a sequel. Something that the director and the actor weren't really want to commit to early on in the promotion of the film, but I think since then there's been obviously perhaps maybe a change in heart from both director and actor, but it's still that, I mean, there was a rumour going about maybe about a month ago that they were very keen on doing a sequel, but it seems to have died a death. Obviously with the Batman film coming out, Matt Reeves' Batman film as well, there's talk about reintroducing the character once again into that film. I'm kind of hoping they don't do that.
I think it's deliberate, Steve.
The Batman film, I would like to see obviously this new Batman film going off and it's doing its own thing first and see where it takes us. But it was a terrific film, John. I knew what I was going to get from obviously the trailer reactions. We also did a fake trailer reaction which we didn't know of, very early on. And we put our hands up to be fair. But
after
the actual genuine official trailers, John, really cemented, home exactly what we're going to get from Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix, and that's why it's our number one.
Absolutely, Stephen. Look, the final thing I would add, there is some comedic moments in there as well. The moment with after he kills that shithead and the little dwarf guy's trying to get out. Just a terror. I laughed at that. And then when he does kill Bob De Niro's character, it's just the way he just casually says, I think it's knock knock, and then he says it's a terrible joke, these are all terrible to me, and then he just nonchalantly shoots him. It's so quick, I actually laughed. I probably shouldn't have. That probably says more about me, but just all in all, wonderful performance, wonderful movie, our movie of the year, and I don't think many people could argue with that, although I've seen some people putting it in the top 10 worst movies. I want to know what crack they're on. But look, guys, what is your top 10 movies of 2019? Have you seen the likes of 1917, Parasite, and so on and so forth? Jojo Rabbit. What are they? Where would they land in your top 10? Well, do you agree with your top 10 essentially? If you've got anything to say at all, I'm gibbering away nonsensically here. You can comment below and let me know what your thoughts are. Down below in the comment section, you can also like the video if you've enjoyed it. You can dislike it if you've hated it. It's all good. You won't offend us. And you can subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying content like this. And if you do, then you'll see us again at some point in 2020 for another show, Force Friday show, whatever. See you then.